Oh.
Sarah and Ann are coming.
Okay.
They're just on the hall.
Okay. All right. Well, I started recording
Okey-doke.
just so that I can get all of that preliminary stuff done. Well, I saw you out there on time.
Hello. Hello.
Well, let's pray. Happy September 18th. Rainbow Photo Day. I'm going to go over there after this. Have you already done it?
No,
Does Guy have to wear a seatbelt? No?
I don't think so.
No, it just has to be business.
Business casual. Okay. I just saw a few and I was like,
I mean,
Very
if you want to, but you have to.
Okay. I want to be sure I wasn't out of dress code.
No,
Okay.
you don't have to wear a suit coat. It's okay.
Well, for us, wouldn't Sunday dress be a skirt until Thanksgiving? Correct? You're an RA, you should know this.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I had read the handbook. Okay, well, we are going to pray. We're going to talk about the adult student. But I have one little tidbit to share from my lesson with my student last night. She's open to the idea of videoing, so I went ahead and bought a webcam for home. Very much like this, I hope. I'm not an expert when it comes to technology, but I only spent about $19 on it, and it was rated from Amazon 5 stars. So I think that 142 people like it. I probably will. So, and anywho, we'll pray and we'll start with our adults. That buzzing. That's
Sorry.
no one's gonna look. Everyone's gonna look.
This is a class of 4 people.
Oh, dear.
Sorry.
Oh, dear.
Actually, no.
The first Motivation Monday, I get a call. And of course, my phone wasn't turned off.
Because it's never turned off.
It is, but it's
Mine's
just
always
terrible.
turned off.
I need to try to figure out the do not disturb thing for you again.
I think so, but the reality is my life is very unpredictable. Someone was like, is texting not a good form of communication? Well, I had a lesson last night at 8 o'clock. So at 8 o'clock, when you email her, texting me, it wasn't a good time. So to tell them my schedule, not worth it. So they can be sassy via text and say, should I call you? Or is this not a good form of communication? When I'm in the middle of a lesson, it's not. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And a part of my frustration just came out, and I apologize for that. Okay, let's pray. We'll start and jump right in. Thank you, Lord, for this day. I pray that you would help us when we have a lot going on to not lose sight of what's most important. And people are important, and help us to be patient. Lord, help us to give grace to other people as well. Many of us have responsibilities that some people may not even be aware of. And Lord, give us patience with others, but also help us to give that freely. We ask that you bless our time together. Help us to learn and grow together. We pray in your name. Amen. Okay. Alrighty. So we often cannot empathize with something we've never experienced, correct? I mean, the definition of empathy is we have to have walked through. And is there anybody's circumstance exactly like your own? No. I loved what, I think there was a gentleman who said, when you go through hurt, I've hurt before, I know what hurt feels like. We've never walked in someone else's shoes. All that to say, we're talking about the adult beginner, but I wanted to share what Melody shared last night. I just said, can I interview you really briefly about your perspective? So she's in 8th grade. I've had her since she was in 6th grade. She's very smart, very talented young lady. Her mom is in charge of the Orbis program. She is the director. She's a doctorate in education. She also has a music degree. Her dad is had a full ride scholarship for trombone, but decided to go with a business degree. So it's just very music family. And I asked her, she stopped doing band, and the reason was the band director would either choose things that were too easy or too hard. Nothing that was, she felt like, was at their level. Was that fun for her? To feel stupid, like I'm not good enough for this, or to feel like I'm a child. Are they really like children anymore so much? No. Now they're not adults yet. So kind of trying to hit that sweet spot is really important. And I just said, tell me what you are drawn to these days. Because that probably changes from week to week. She said, for some reason, really sad music. It's like, okay. And I said, well, why do you think that is? She said, well, it's like an outlet for some of the hard things I don't know how to process. So do you think they experience some adult problems in their middle school years? They do. Are they really as emotionally mature as most adults? I think some people grow into an adult body, but they still have like a adolescent behavior and reasoning. I thought that was very interesting. She said, I'm starting to be able to not worry what others think of my gifts. She said, I'm starting to feel that way. But she said, when I was 5 years old, I was proud of, like, I just learned this piece and I shared all of this stuff with my friends. And I was like, I just did this, I did this. Just happy to share. And then as she entered, like, middle school, she was like, I didn't want anyone to know I was in piano lessons. I didn't want anyone to know who my teacher was. I didn't want anyone to see me in a recital. What changed? Like a child that loved sharing, felt very comfortable. Not all of us are different, but for her, what changed? You all are like bumps and all. Hopefully Marianne is more exciting on the... I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Okay, we're all tired and more sarcasm seems to come out when I'm tired. Okay, an awareness of what people think. A little child doesn't have inhibitions quite so much. Like Lily will say outlandish things. She's learning that you have to utter that truth. She's like, Mom, that is true. Okay. That's a truth we just keep inside. We don't share. Have just awkward moments for a parent. But they just don't, she doesn't mean it to be cruel or unkind. She makes observations. She feels like that ought to be shared. She's learned that you tell the truth. She hasn't quite gotten the filter yet. But when they're in those middle school years, the filter's too strong. They won't even share anything. Worried that they might be thought of as whatever they deem as, they want to be accepted really badly at that time. So just being really, don't be bound by a method. Don't be bound by, you might have a student that's kind of doesn't enter that phase until later. But just be sensitive. Some might enter it earlier than some kids. So we just need to be very empathetic. And it was very interesting, some of the things she shared. And she feels like she's starting to exit that. And I asked her what she loves about music, and she said, it's a place to be, to share emotions without hurting anything or hurting someone. I thought that was interesting. So you can play angry without punching a wall or a pillow or whatever. An outlet for some of those things. So keep that in mind. And I also tell my students that I'm praying for you. Now, Melody's from a background where I believe that their parents are born again, but definitely they know I'm teaching at faith, and I openly share that I pray for Melody and just for wisdom and strength through this awkward time. It is. And I think it's better when the teacher acknowledges that this is kind of a tough time. When the expectations are clear, does it make it easier? Last night I went to Hy-Vee because the kids eat free, and it's also burger night, $8 for a burger, so it was really great. And when we arrived, they said the food may take 40 minutes, just so you're aware. Now, it didn't take that long. It took less than 40 minutes. But I was really like super happy when it came out in 25 minutes. Because my expectation was it was going to take more than that. So, clear expectations of letting them know that you know, hey, this is going to be kind of a something, you know, an unusual journey, and I'm here with you, and I want to be your support through this phase. Okay, the adult. Before I talk about the adult, I just signed up for a free teaching online class. It's about teaching for the online platform. I probably should watch it and do it first before I recommend it, but I thought this is going to be kind of cool. There are 5 different segments about teaching specifically. I haven't done a lot with that kind of teaching, so but I'm going to experiment with it, dabble with it. There are pros and cons to it, but something at least a lot of you wrote in your studio policy that you'd be willing to do that as a makeup, as a Skype or a Zoom, or I don't remember the other platforms, Facebook, Messenger, I think someone mentioned. But you would really want to work through angles and wherever you put the recording equipment. That's part of why I bought one for myself, so at home I can be doing more trial and error. One YouTuber said, for every 20 videos you make, one will be good. So, yeah, okay. I do want to keep you, you do have the reading journal you're going to turn in November 20th. And what that's for is not the book report. You have your book that you've chosen. You're going to do a book report on that. That will be the information I need from that. But with your textbook reading, I want you to write reflections. Am I going to be going through there with a fine-tooth comb? No. But I want for you to learn from what you're doing and reflect on it so that learning isn't just a one-time occurrence. Now, the articles, I put some of those magazines over there. There's some up here too. They don't start until later, after the book report is done. Please stop in, grab one of the ones I have here or one of the ones over there. You can also go online with NTMA or several others, too. So that's that.
We just keep her out, like, just write down thoughts.
Yeah. I thought of doing a double entry journal, which if you've been in ed courses, I decided I wanted to be useful to you. This piano notebook that you're going to turn at the end is your stuff. But I'm so glad I've referenced things that I have all the time. And it makes where I'm not having to reinvent the wheel. It's like halfway there and all I have to do is like adjust. So a lot easier. And usually I can make improvements easier from something that's already there. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want it typed or do you want it written?
Just handwritten. Now, if you like doing all typed, or you want to keep it on your phone in some form or your iPad, as long as it's where you could send it to me, but I want them printed in your piano notebook, okay? And organized as part of that final project. Okay, and if you haven't noticed, there is an extra credit piano composition that is completely optional. It's not a part of the grade. It will just be something that you can do. Could you double duty it with your composition? I think so, but it needs to be leveled.
I was going to ask, what are the parameters for that?
It would need to be leveled. Okay, so you don't have a prescribed level that you have to pick. But if you choose, let's say I'm going to do intermediate, like level 5, all of the things you write need to fit in the level 5. Okay? Maybe you want to say early advanced, you're then a little bit more free to do whatever you want. However, typically though, that's not going to be a small composition.
What are your thoughts on like page length or that sort of thing?
To me, small is 2 pages or less, in my view. Okay? So that is completely optional. You do not have to do that. We've talked a lot about leveling. You're going to do your method review. You'll get a little taste for leveling. Keep in mind that some of the books, level 1 in one book might be different than level 1 in another. So the MTNA has a really great system that they use, and I like it better than actually the MTA. No, it's not bad. It's just I think a little clearer and easier to follow. But alrighty. And then you do have a final exam in this course, but I'm going to walk you through. It will not be anything we haven't covered. So don't worry about that. Just one exam. Your midterm is kind of like your book report. That grade will kind of fill in that place. Okay? Alrighty. So the notes of where we're going to go. So if you're interested in me forwarding that to you even before I have previewed it, I have taken like 10 minutes to look at it, but I haven't watched all of it. Okay. So I shared my dear Melody's thoughts, and Priscilla, which is my 14-year-old, after lessons yesterday with Mr. Chuck, said, I think that was my rose of the day. In our home, we do a rose and thorn of the day, something that was good, something that was hurt my heart or something. Her rose was lessons. And she couldn't tell me why. He's just so warm and gentle and kind. It's just wonderful. And just a really neat guy. The adult beginner. Oh goodness, I have a lot of things behind me, and go ahead and just kind of peruse while I'm listening. So you have something to look at. I just did make a copy of a sheet of flashcards, and then I can laminate this and then cut it out. This is showing you multiple things you can do. So when you look at methods, there's more. I have like probably 15 more methods. What's so funny?
Oh.
Oh.
I'm just so confused with
Okay.
the context.
Okay. All right. So some of these are going to be like in front of Anna. That is an adult for a music major. Okay. So some of my texts I have taught group piano to people that it was their secondary piano proficiency. And I had 4 different classes. It was great fun. As many as 8 to 12 students in every group. A total of about 40 students. Maybe 48. It was a lot. Obviously, if you're coming to try to get ready for your proficiency, you're going to be kind of coming at it at quite a different perspective. It's going to be, you're basically training them toward a proficiency exam, a standard that they need to achieve. Now, would you say someone that comes to, Allison, would you hold up the one you have underneath? Okay. Play by choice, an adult piano method, with the music you want to play. So that book is not going to be geared for a music major. It's trying to take songs that an adult would be desirous to try and play. Do you think most adults come to music for the music theory? To learn about notes and rhythms? And they treasure literacy? Not usually. That's usually not one of their primary concerns. Now, a music major kind of does come with their own set of gifts and challenges. One thing that I find tricky and hard, my husband, you've heard him sing. Would you say that God gave him a beautiful voice? Okay.
I've never heard him sing.
Really? Okay. Well, anywho.
I'm sure he does.
And he does fine in music theory, and he does probably better than me in music history and better than me in some other subjects. But because he never had piano lessons as a child, or even in middle school or high school, his brain is far beyond his coordination of his hands. And so piano study is frustrating. It is not like playing the piano. It's like trying to ride a horse that's untrained. And you know a ton about horses. So it's just really difficult. So that is one of the reasons, there's many reasons, that I learned to ride a motorcycle, is I wanted to be in the feeling of my music appreciation students. Did I feel out of place in a class of 12 with many of them with 20 years of riding experience, and the only other girl is Russian and she doesn't really speak a lot of English?
You could have just talked about Kristen and she could have talked to her.
Well, and then she said to me, or one of the guys said to me, "Oh, tell me about your bike." It's a Honda Rebel. You know how many cc's? I was like, I think it's 250. And that's now I'm done talking about my bike because I know nothing else about it. And they are continuing to talk about, so it's like a V-twin or something. I now know what the throttle is and the clutch. Not driven a stick shift car, so I did come with that advantage. However, I was totally the green one in the room, along with the Russian girl. She did not know. And I just prayed that I wouldn't be the one to drop my bike. There was actually a guy that dropped his bike in the class on a turn. They told us not to break in the turn. He disobeyed, so he spilled his bike on the ground. But it wasn't me, thankfully. That was one of my student learning objectives, was that I would not dump the bike. Yeah, one of my SLOs. But I will tell you that, do you feel, is it hard to fight the feelings of incompetence and fear when you're learning something brand new? It is really hard. Especially when you're next to an expert, right? People that are like, this is their job to train people. They know everything there is to know about it. So it was a good experience. And another thing is I learned a little bit about the violin and the cello through my daughters. Am I ever going to be a concert violinist? No. And that's not even my desire. However, being the learner is something I want to maintain. So maybe you don't have access to a violin, but you have a ukulele. Make sure you're the learner all the time, because that awkwardness, you need to remember what that feels like. You really do. There's so much value to someone who you know how the process, how long it takes. And I was appreciative when the instructor didn't assume I knew things, but just kind of walked me through each of the steps. Because some of the things I knew, but I needed to kind of be reminded of the sequence of when to do things. And I need to remember that even with, I just had Kent in here. He's an adult beginner. He has some guitar background, but virtually starting fresh. So because of what I've recently done with that motorcycle thing, and did I make mistakes? Like I forgot to turn the fuel valve on, and so I'm broke down on the side of the road, headed to chapel.
What happened?
Yeah, but I didn't know that was what was wrong. Just don't have a lot of troubleshooting. So for Kent, he was in the wrong hand position. He said, well, I'm not sure why this sounds bad. I know. But it's because I have how many thousands of hours behind the piano? Thousands and thousands. So, and Willie Felderman is the one that said, hey, I'll take a peek at it, because I didn't have time to tinker with it. I had music history. He's like, not a problem. It was easy to fix. You didn't have a fuel valve off. So I'm learning and I'm growing. It's very humbling, because I do not like that feeling of incompetence. But it's a good thing to keep alive in your life, because humility is a Christ-like quality, isn't it? To be willing to learn. So a golden time to study the piano. what would be the advantages to being an adult student?
You might have
You started first.
you might have a little more of some kind of other musical background, so you might have some experience. You've heard or seen people play the piano more maybe, and you have more brain capacity to absorb the things you're being taught maybe.
You are right. Now, the sponge part of the brain in an adult is not as good as a second grader, but they do have more knowledge. What I've encountered with adults, what holds them back a lot, do kids, are they pretty accustomed to making mistakes and falling down and like all the time? I mean, Lily has scrapes on her knees virtually every day, right? Bruise here and there. Adults, we kind of, as you grow into an adult, at least for me, I typically focus on things I'm good at. Okay? Because I like the feeling of like accomplishment and being extraordinary in one way or another. So we kind of eliminate like, why do I not cook a lot? Well, a lot of my experiences with cooking have not gone very well. So those feelings, am I looking forward to another feeling of that didn't turn out? Not so much, okay? Especially if you have in your home someone that everything they make, it's like they've got a golden brown, you know, everything is delicious that they make. So adults are very hard on themselves. Oh my goodness. If they forget to do something, it's like they're like mad at themselves. Where a kid is like moving straight over, they might, and it sound terrible, but they just mow right through it. But it can be a struggle for them to not be too perfectionist oriented. And that they kind of, a child that knows that they're probably not going to be a concert pianist in a week. For some reason, adults kind of think in a couple of weeks they're going to be really pretty good. I don't know why, but they kind of think, hey, I was able to set up a YouTube channel in 2 hours, so I think I'll learn the piano in 2 hours. I'm not going to become an amazing soccer player with 2 hours on the field. I don't care how motivated I am, okay? There's a lot more to it than just dedication. So you are absolutely right on that. I'm curious to hear Logan's thoughts.
I was just gonna say, like, attention span would be a little bit different.
You have a long attention span. You do. You have a good attention span. One thing I'll notice that I've noticed with my adult students, when they haven't practiced, they want to talk to you and try and listen. Because they don't want to play anything for you because they're embarrassed and shy. I mean, we've all been there, okay? All of us, myself included. So, because we are dealing with adults, do adults have responsibilities? A lot of them usually. So, especially adult that's a working adult or with a family, is there often times where your usual routine gets interrupted by a responsibility or something else? You guys are in this zone as well. You have a great attention span. If God gave you 3 hours of something at a time when you didn't have anything you had to do, would you use it practicing probably? 3 hours of time that there's no other commitments, you have nowhere you need to be, all the homework is done. You probably would, right? Yeah. Now,
Eat food.
eat food. Okay. Indeed. You probably would. So one thing that I've done with my adult students is I spend time with them just saying, hey, look at your calendar. Some of them have a Google Calendar, and let's map out what are consistent times that you, unless something like an unexpected event happens, that you could practice. So for some of them, it's like, hey, right after dinner, if I just said to my kids, hey, right after dinner, this is going to be something Mom wants to learn and grow with music, and I want to have some time just to practice. Do you guys play outside or do something quiet or not? Yes, ma'am.
My mom would always, after we finished eating, she would say, "Okay, girls, kitchen's yours," and then we would clean up the kitchen, and she would go and play the piano.
See? And she was probably pretty consistent because she looked forward to that, I'm sure. She got out of work for a little bit because she dished it off to you.
Well, because she made all the food and everything, so we just had to clean it up.
Yeah. So, another thing that I've done with adults, and I do this for myself, and I find it really a treat. I pair two things I like together. So I'll say I'm going to have Jonathan iced coffee, and I'm going to carve out a half hour to practice or an hour to practice. So, and I'm not right now for me, honestly, with adjusting to Priscilla going to a different school, it's been harder for me to carve out practice. And it's not because of laziness, it's just I've had some new things that I want to make sure that I give attention to. However, when today, Caitlin said, hey, I need to reschedule. All right, now I have a free hour. I'm not going to nap. I'm actually going to use it so I can work on some stuff. So if you can just teach your adult student that they need to be structure it like they do their work hours. They would never just not go into work. Yes, some of them, but usually not the ones that are coming for piano lessons. And another thing I emphasize with adults is I want you to be sure in the interview that whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. I want to give you a really wonderful experience. And I will give you 100% of myself during our lessons, but I want you to be aware you're going to need to really devote time to this for this to really be something that you gain as a skill. If I only take a cooking class but I never cook, did I learn things? Sure. But I didn't really have a full experience because I didn't implement it. So you need to find ways to connect with them. If they are a teacher, if the students don't do the homework, are they going to be doing as well in class? Unfortunately not. I wish there was a way to get around it, but there just isn't. So it's part of, like if you have a dentist that you're giving lessons to, teeth brushing isn't always pleasurable, but you're always thankful you have, right? When you get a no cavity appointment, score. So handspan is usually fully developed. Now you still are going to have small-handed pianists in your life. In this notebook I haven't really progressed through thinking about it too much. There's a program where Dr. Leon gets 7/8 pianos to colleges and universities, and that's for small-handed pianists. As an injury prevention, Logan wouldn't need it. You know, a small-handed pianist. But just be mindful of, I have a little sheet in here. You can measure your handspan. Mine is like the average handspan, about as average as it can be. And I would say mine seems fairly small, actually, but mine is average. Yours would be above average, Logan. So you would have no need for a 7/8. But if you could put an hour and a half on a 7/8 size and then an hour and a half on a regular size, do you think that would save your hands and your arms quite a bit?
I feel like it might throw off my
Depth perception?
my muscle
Yeah, I
memory.
still feel like that too.
But we are fearfully and wonderfully made. When you're paying attention, not mindful, paying attention, can you raise your foot higher for a larger step? You're very capable. Now, I might trying to text while going upstairs, my body's going to do what it thinks it is, and then I'm going to trip, right? But when you're paying attention, I think that you'd be amazed at how you adjust. It's like your body takes in the information and maps, and it's like, okay. It's really kind of weird to think about. They love to play familiar tunes, so make sure whatever you choose, you have all-in-one, you have Faber has one, you have Hal Leonard has one, Bastion has one. There's really tons of them available. Dr. Renfro is my teacher from Bob Jones. That one that's at the bottom there, Allison, he is a co-author of that.
I really
Very
like
clever dude.
that this one has like opportunities for ad lib, like the teacher plays a part.
Yeah.
And it tells them like play on these keys.
Now,
That's
I
really
did
cool.
that with Kent today. He hated it.
See, I was gonna say, I feel like some people would hate it,
Yeah.
but for more creative-minded
So,
people, it would be really cool because you're like creating, and it's a more advanced
Yeah.
sort of a thing,
I tried
even
to
if
make
it's
it. He hated it.
I did it with Kent, and he was like pained with the
yeah.
experience.
I can see him doing
And
that.
I told him, you're taking this too seriously. Like, have you ever done like improv, like, or you've seen like someone that's a really good off the cuff like joke teller? They're not like reading off like, okay, now what do I do? Totally different. But pay attention. I told him, look, I want you to do more of this on your own, so you don't feel so silly. He's like, oh, I just don't know. What are you doing over there? Because I was playing with him as well. And I said, just keep playing. You could be too. But it was really funny. They are really nice because you can schedule funny times with an adult. I usually scheduled them as the last person, 9 o'clock. So I taught sometimes till 9:30. Oof, it was rough because I'm a morning person. But I'd have a good like Dunkin' Donuts to kind of get me charged for that time. And usually I would try and have like granola bar to kind of recharge it. It wasn't easy, but I found scheduling with no gaps for me worked the best. Just because I might have parents that linger for 15, 20 minutes. And then my half-hour break to eat lunch turned into no minutes, really, by the time I got it out of the fridge. So I just booked myself solid. And if I got a cancellation, it was like, cool, now I get to eat. Which is it prepared me for my job at Faith. Okay. Methods to consider. So you have some of that in front of you. I have Kent in the Piano Adventures for the Adult. This one right here. Right here. You looked at the all-in-one. There really isn't a bad method. The one thing, again, that I like about Faber, that they have all kinds of free online stuff for him to look at. Now, am I going to force him to do that? No, but if he wants, like, more guidance outside of the lesson and he likes that kind of thing, he can. Now, you might have kids that won't ever do that, or adults that don't want that. That's okay. The adult piano methods, it's right on Anna's lap. That's how Leonard. They have a CD. I find CDs for some people don't have access to CDs. Thank you, Vanna. Some people don't have access to CD player, and so that can be a little wonky. And that's why an app from phone is pretty handy. The only thing is, will the parent always be available to the child with their phone when they're into it? Depends on the dedication of the parent. Parent education is very important. That's where in your interview you can also share, like, hey, especially when they're really small, you being there, even though you may not be an expert musician, you can read and you can read the assignment that I wrote and kind of like, oh, she said to go over this too. Why don't we go find this in your books too? So that their role will be, I'm not expecting they're going to do teaching, but just making sure that they kind of have some guidance early on is very important. Okay, so Bastion, I've used that as well. I think I prefer Faber. They have some of those discovery moments. Some of the students are like, think that's fantastic because they're making really pretty music off the cuff. Can't hate it, but hey, I now know that about him.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves the duets. I can tell he really likes that. So I make sure I play all of them, and I also make up some with him. And it uses my harmonization skill to boot. So it's a win-win. Supplementary materials. These are going to be critical as well. I pulled out a few. I'm holding them. Okay. All right. So exploring the classics. So There's book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, book 6. I picked out preparatory level and level 6. And I have in this drawer all of the other ones.
Wait, what is the preference?
Preparatory is going to be,
That's the 4 level one.
so now you're going to look in here, and this is not what you're going to give most elementary. There you go, Marianne, so you can see. It's beyond. So this is preparatory, exploring the classics. Now, just so you can see, level 6.
That's a
Yeah. So then you have a short, brief excerpt of a minuet, and they give you some music theory information as well as music history.
You should just go through that book.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of arpeggios and etudes, allegro excerpt. We're talking about motive and sequence. So it's not just music. La, la. There's more on the back that shows you other ones. I have some Baroque spirit. I have some Romantic spirit. I have some beyond the Romantics. You pay attention for a spark. You have a student that's like, I love Chopin, I love this. Then pull out for them those Romantic spirit, or they love a Nocturne by Chopin. Get Dennis Alexander. You know there's other easier, because if you can give them a piece that sounds like their destination, that's so fun. I don't, some people are against an arrangement of Burley's or an arrangement of Moonlight Sonata. If that's going to make them happy,
Make them.
are you more motivated to practice when you like something?
Mm-hmm.
You bet. I don't pick offertories that I'm gonna be like, oh, I hate this offertory. I want to really want. I'm a salesman, and I better like what I'm trying to sell, right? It's terrible to try and sell something you think is terrible. Okay, so that's really important. You can. I have these books right here. I'll go. So the adult piano classics goes right with the Faber ones. So these would be, you'd maybe have to be a little more savvy to level it properly. And we'll walk through more of leveling down the road, okay? Piano Pedagogy 2, we're going to actually be doing more lesson planning and actual teaching with observation and that kind of thing. I'm laying a lot of groundwork stuff so that we'll be ready for that, okay? You're not going to be doing the lesson planning and trying to do lessons quite yet. Some of you already are. Or trying. But I'm not going to video you yet. Give you a chance to kind of, there's some awkward stuff that happens, and kids are weird and funny. Truth. Oh my goodness. Very, even, I'm a musician and my kids are weird. And they do, like, Lily, please don't do that. Okay.
Every time I say whole note, one of my little girls laughs because I compared it to a donut because she wasn't paying attention. And so now every time I'm like, whole note, she's like, giggles like off the wall for like 5 minutes. I'm like, oh no.
What have I done?
Wasn't that funny?
No.
Oh dear.
Oh, but it
Yes.
was.
Oh dear. Oh dear. I have some very funny stories. I'd like you to share. I'd like to do a YouTube video of all of us with our funniest awkward moments, just as a hilarious compilation. My husband has even hilarious things that he's encountered with his music classes, and that you just want to like die laughing. He said, "You tell all of us to sing. Some of us don't sound nice when we sing. Maybe we should have them be quiet, and we should only sing." But they didn't mean it in like a harsh way. They're thinking, observation, some people don't sound pretty. Why do we have them not sing?
We can sing.
So, oh boy, I have 2 minutes. I better keep moving. That book on the ground also has corresponding hymns and popular books. Those are critically important. get them experiencing music they are familiar with. So there's church background. Make sure you have a hymn book ready for them. Not a hymnal, but the supporting stuff. I've chosen to organize mine. Well, if you look back there, all of the favorite, whether it's sight reading, theory, performance lesson theory, I put them all together. Other teachers I've known put all of their theory books all together. When they forget their books, I want to go to, like, I know you're in book 3, pull out all of book 3, and they're like, oh, so I still have to do theory. Like, you still get to do music theory, which they usually still roll their eyes and like annoyed. But you have book 1, book 2, you have Alfred has stuff, lots of different things. If you have that middle one, that one is really gets them to playing probably more quickly than a lot of the other ones, and more chord-based playing than reading. And for a guitar person, that might be an advantage. So make sure in the interview you know what instrument background they have. That will inform a lot. If you have, let's say, a bass, have they really experienced a lot with the treble clef? Maybe when they were a kid, but if that's been 10 years or 20 years or 40 years, they're going to need some extra support in that. The other thing that I want you to be mindful of is you will have adults that won't practice. And you just have a candid conversation and say, you know, I know that you work hard for the money you earn, and I want you to be getting your money's worth. What can I do to help you to be motivated to practice? Do we need to take a vacation and only do hymns and popular repertoire for a bit and skip the method for a while? Because I can tell you don't seem very motivated. And sometimes they'll say, actually, I'm still enjoying lessons. I just had a stressful couple weeks, but I think things are like shaking out. You just want to be sure that they're aware of that investment of their own time is needed. And I just try to be very kind, but also very open about things like things are kind of not what they could be, what's going on. So, because they are not paying you to be their therapist to talk to you the entire lesson, okay? Yeah, like lay back and give them a cup of coffee.
Just hang off the bench.
Okay, it is 12:51. We are going to talk about lesson planning. Keep calm and write a lesson plan. So, planning is really a key component. My first lesson plan, I'll tell you, at Bob Jones, I'd never taught a lesson before I went there. And my first lesson plan was assign new repertoire, listen to old repertoire. That was all I wrote. That's all I knew what to say. And she's like, that's it? I was like, what more is there to do?
That's all I did my first lesson.
Well, I'm going to teach you. And I had never had any pedagogy training. I had no idea what they were talking about. And I'll show you and guide you through. Of course, you've never been asked to do some of these things. I'll tell you some of the wording, what are the scaffolding things you should do. And you won't have to lesson plan, script it out every lesson, but you should have a plan for every lesson. But you learn by scripting. So, blessings be upon you. I will end this meeting for our friends, and then I'm going to go